In this video I'll be checking the isolation between the high voltage battery and the chassis on the converted electric Brumby. So the first thing our instructions say to do is to disconnect the mains power, which I've done, open the bonnet and press the red isolation switch as so. So that's isolated there. Now I've got a red flashing light there which is not flashing, which tells me that there's no voltage present. Then I need to plug in the banana plugs into here. So this is getting me my 150 volt traction battery to be able to be read onto the multimeter. So the multimeter here, plug it in like so. Set to 200 volts DC. Now the next step is to pull out the isolation switch. You see my red light starts flashing and the voltage here has popped up to 168.9. So this is just to test the connection. So either connection's working. You can see here my BMS says that the voltage is 168.6. So very similar to what we have here, measured in slightly different ways. Now one thing you might notice is that the reading here is negative. Now I've got my red into my red and my black into my black in both cases. This is because I've wired up this cable wrong. I've actually swapped the red and the black, which is really annoying, but it doesn't matter in this particular case. That first step is just to test the connection. So we've got a good connection there. Isolate it again. So the idea here is to isolate it every time you want to change the connections to make sure that you don't electrocute yourself. You can see the voltage there quickly drop down to about 5 volts, and my red flashing light has now started flashing a bit faster. It will slowly go a little bit faster. It'll go dimmer and dimmer as we get down to about 5 volts. So that red light means, if that red light is flashing, it means it's above 5 volts. 5 volts is very safe, so we can do the next step now. Where are we up to? So the next step, so we've checked the connections, press the red isolation switch there, I've isolated it again now. Now remove the black plug from the multimeter and connect this one to that socket and connect that to chassis earth. So I've got a spot down here where I can connect to earth quite nicely. Next step is step 7 there, pull out the red isolation button. So we come back up again, the voltage is back up, and we read the voltage on the meter. Now this is taking a while to come up because we've got capacitors in there and various stuff in the circuits. So what I do is I wait until it's reasonably stable. It's not critical that we get it to leave it a long time, but we get it till it's reasonably stable. I'm going to be recording this. I am recording it as VR. So this is the voltage with the red plug plugged in, and so on our workbook here, VR is where I'm going to be recording the number. Now we're reasonably stable there now, so I might record perhaps 150, 158, something like that. Now we're ignoring the positive or negative. We're just using the absolute value, which is one reason why it doesn't matter if I've got the plugs around the wrong way. Okay, so the next step was to push in the red isolation button. Now disconnect the red banana plug and connect the black banana plug into the multimeter. So wait for the voltage to come down. Now the voltage that I'm seeing here is not the actual voltage between the red and the black banana plugs. that red light has stopped flashing, and so I know that's good. The voltage here is between the chassis and the battery pack, so that's, yeah, there's not much in that. We're fine to disconnect this now. So what I'm going to do is to put while we're keeping the chassis connected to the one socket, I'm connecting the negative part of the battery pack onto the other socket here. And we do the same thing. Measure the voltage of that. Once again, it takes some time to settle down. Yeah, what we're doing here is we're measuring the voltage between the positive side of the traction pack and the chassis, and then we're measuring it from the negative side of the traction pack to the chassis. And the first bit that we're doing is just seeing which one has the greater absolute voltage. So this one here, it's coming down. We can see it's going to be lower than the other one, but I'll record, say, 15 volts in VB. V for the black plug. What did I say? 15 volts. Okay, so I'll go and do that again. Then, which is greater? VR or VB is VR, and so we'll put that in there, 158. Okay, now we need to put our resistor in. The next step here, push in red isolation button, determine the larger of the two. Okay, so if it was VB, it was not. If VR was larger, remove the black plug and plug in the red plug. So back to where we were before. Remove this, just check that the voltage is down to good. And remove the black one, put the red one in. Okay, now the next step is to connect the test resistor across the meter. Here's our test resistor, and when it says across the meter, it means across these two plugs, so they can piggyback on the back of them. Easy with two hands. And then pull out the red isolation button and we'll measure the voltage with the resistor. So this is the voltage between the terminal that was the highest voltage to start with and the chassis, but with a resistor in between those two things. So then we've got a voltage without the resistor and a voltage with the resistor, and we put that into our calculation and we can work out how much current's actually flowing through there. So this one we will wait until it settles to a reasonably stable reading, and we're going to record it as V2. So V2, I'll say, is 110 volts. And then we get to do our calculations. VG minus V2 is 48. So 0.002 divided by 48 times V2, which is 110. 0.00045 amps, which is 4.5 milliamps. Which is well lower than our 20, so we have passed this test. I'll go and isolate everything, wait for the voltage to drop, pull out all of the plugs, and we're finished. So there you have it. It's a reasonably straightforward process once you've got the steps written down. Make sure that you don't use my formula if your car is different to mine. So I've got a blog. I'll put a link to it in the comments of this video underneath. Check that out and see. You can put in your own voltage and your own test resistor into the calculation to make sure that it works for you.